Call the meeting to order. Shall we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item this evening is to announce that Horsham Township has been recognized for its achievement in leadership in minimizing workplace injuries and illness by the Delaware Valley's Worker Compensations Trust. Mr. Walker?
I'd just like to point this out, and I'm happy to point it out each year. You can put it up then. That the hard work that not only the management team does on our safety committee, but also the employees, that we want our employees to come to work happy and safe, and we want them to go home happy and safe. And it's a culture that has been instilled into our organization for decades. And we have one of the lowest, we're always in the top 3. We're really the only large municipality that's in the top 3 now for consecutive years. To be recognized for our workers' comp and our safety that we do. But it is amazing, you know, how our workforce keeps an eye out for each other. Our public works, our police officers, our code, the people that are work outside of the building, and how they watch out for each other out there. It's a different world than the 1980s and 1990s Horsham Township. And when you work out on the road, whether you're at a traffic stop or you're filling a pothole, it's a different world out there, and they watch out for each other very closely. And I'm happy to report that, again, we've been recognized for the very few claims that we have in Horsham for injuries. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
All righty, thank you for that. Next is public comment. Anybody with questions or comments? Next is a presentation on the suicide prevention awareness and resources.
As council knows, this is the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, and we participated in the week. Just last week, we had our pinwheels and sign out front, and we have one of our Horsham residents with us that is part of the Suicide Prevention Task Force of the county. Colleen Duffy is with us this evening, and we wanted to carry the message a step further with the presentation here this evening on this very important topic that Horsham is no stranger to, unfortunately, but we wanted to bring more attention to it during this month of awareness. So, Colleen? Yes. Or you can sit at a table. You can stand there or sit.
I'll stand,
okay.
If that's okay. Can you hear me all, everyone? Great. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Bill, and the council for inviting me to come tonight and talk about a topic that's of very great importance to my family and, you know, the township, as you mentioned, has been very supportive with Suicide Prevention Month being this month. Who's doing the slides? Okay, go ahead. First of all, just to set expectations, I want to let you know I'm not a mental health professional, and this isn't intended to be like an educational training program on preventing suicide. What Bill asked me to do and what I'd like to share with you is sort of the importance of why we need to address suicide in our community and what local resources and programs are available. I work with a number of different organizations. Bill mentioned the task force, so I'll talk a bit about that as well as a couple of others. And then hopefully wrap up if there's any thoughts or discussion points about how we can work together, you know, to help the situation. So, go ahead. This is my why. My husband's here tonight as well, but why we are involved in suicide prevention has to do with the fact that we lost our son Jack in 2019, just after his 20th birthday, to suicide. And I don't know if Jack, you'd say he was typical or atypical, but he was very, very smart, very, had friends, he was very athletic, but unfortunately he struggled with a brain illness, depression, and he died by suicide. So one thing I think about with Jack is that it kind of shows people that suicide can really strike any family, any community. It doesn't discriminate based on geography or socioeconomics and the like. So, but that's kind of what is our passion and how we've gotten involved. On a broader level, just to let you know, if you're not aware already, suicide is a leading cause of death in our country, with almost 50,000 people dying each year from suicide. And importantly, it's the second leading cause of death for our young people, age 10 to 34. If you're comfortable, I just like to pause here and just ask, and it's, you don't have to, but if you have been touched by suicide, if you know a neighbor, a friend, a family member, a colleague, just raise your hand if you want to. Yeah. Yeah, so our group is pretty representative then, because they say that over our lifetime, over half of us will be touched in some way by suicide. And there's also, for every suicide, they say there's about 25 attempts. And so those are people that, also need our help and support. Next slide. So if you take it to a little closer level, this is Montgomery County data on suicide deaths over the last 10 years. And so you can see that there has been, for the last couple of years, right about 100 people in Montgomery County who unfortunately have died by suicide. And I popped out some numbers that we recently received specific to our township. So we know that in 2023, unfortunately, we lost 6 of our community members, and so far this year, we've lost 8. Suicide, as I mentioned, can strike really any community demographic, but there are certain risk factors, and in particular, we find that, and this is, again, county-level data, men are more at risk, or males are more at risk than females. And it tends to strike oftentimes in our young adult males, as you can see a kind of spike there, and also middle-aged males as well. So what I wanted to do after kind of stating the case of why we want to get involved is share a little bit about resources and programs that can help us in terms of our cause about suicide prevention. I just want to touch briefly on our foundation only because it's our foundation, the Jack Duffy Empowerment Foundation, isn't meant to be recreating the wheel, but what we formed this foundation just after our son died in 2019 to raise awareness and raise funds, and then we support other larger organizations that already have the infrastructure and training programs, professionals and that, to do the education and outreach and things. But just to make you aware, because we've had a couple of important events in our township over the last few years, you may have heard. We have a 5K run. Jack was a runner in cross country and track, so we have a 5K run for him every year. This was our 6th year. A couple hundred community members come out, which is fabulous, to help support the cause, raise awareness, and raise funds for suicide prevention. Last year, we also started a new event, which is called Jack's Charity Chess Meet. So you already know a little bit about Jack now. He was a runner and he liked to play chess. And he particularly liked to kind of teach other people how to play and have enjoyment of the game of chess. So last year we were really excited to partner with the high school chess team and put on an event which we're going to repeat again in early next year, where the high schoolers get involved and set up games and mentoring programs for the younger kids. And it's a really nice event. So the next group I want to talk about is, as Bill referenced, the Montgomery County Suicide Prevention Task Force. Go ahead. And the task force mission is, as you can expect, to reduce suicide in our county by raising awareness, education, training, and importantly, reducing the stigma about suicidality, suicidal thoughts, mental health, because we know if people are ashamed of it, if they're thinking they're the only person that ever had these thoughts, then they're not necessarily going to be reaching out for the help that could save their life. They also recognize at the task force that suicide is a public health issue. It's a complex health diagnosis, just like diabetes or heart disease, and there are risk factors that we can be aware of. There are protective factors that we can support, and it is often preventable. We are very fortunate in Montgomery County to have some really specific resources in our area. Montgomery County Mobile Crisis, you may be aware of. which is available 24/7 for people, whether it's a family, a child, an adult who may be experiencing a crisis. Trained counselors can help you 24/7, and if needed, as designated by the name, mobile crisis, they can come to you and provide support. On a non-crisis basis, there's also adult and teen talk and chat lines that are available at the county level. Again, counselors that you can talk to, leave a card out for your teenager in their room, and if they ever need it, they'll have it, and if they don't, great. And then Bill also mentioned how Horsham Township has gotten involved in our most recent project, which is the Pinwheel Project. And I have to say I was very, very proud that Horsham participated in this and grateful for your support. And as he mentioned, the pinwheels, there were 100 pinwheels on the lawn to represent each life that was lost to suicide in 2023, as well as a sign that told people about where to go and where to call for help if they were in that kind of situation. You may not know, we also have a family bingo night that the task force is planning for October 18th. And being from Horsham and knowing we have our lovely community center, I sort of threw that out as a place to have it, and that's where we'll be having that this year. So it's not necessarily going to be about suicide prevention or awareness, but it's a fundraiser and just a fun family-oriented night for people to come out, play bingo, get some prizes, and then those funds will help to support the work of the Montgomery County Suicide Prevention Task Force moving forward. So the last organization I wanted to talk to you about, and probably has the greatest resources, is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm on the board of the Greater Philadelphia chapter of AFSP, and I want to just go through a little bit about them and what resources that we have that could help our community, schools, employers, etc. The mission of AFSP is to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. So it's both for prevention and what we call postvention, which is, again, helping lost survivors. AFSP is actually a largely volunteer-run organization. Like my husband, many of us were all volunteers. We belong to chapters for each of the states across the U.S., and our chapter, Greater Philadelphia, covers the 5 counties, including and around Philadelphia, of course, including Montgomery County. And then I just want to briefly go through the 4 areas that AFSP has resources and programs to make you familiar with them. We have education, advocacy, research, and support. So when it comes to education, I mentioned this isn't necessarily tonight meant to be an education talk by a certified trainer, but we do have them. And importantly, they are free programs. They're evidence-based programs that are developed and updated by mental health professionals. And we have programs for many different audience types. So if, for example, you were interested in holding a community education program at the community center, we could do that. If you have contacts at the school and found that the middle school or high school was interested in putting on programs, we can do that as well. We have programs designed for the different ages and the different audiences. And for example, when we go into a school, we can do staff education, student education, and typically when we do student education, we also partner it with parent education so that maybe it's at an HSA night, parents can find out and be aware, what information we're sharing and being able to reinforce, what's being learned. Oh, and then just one little note, you don't have to go backwards, but we also have tabling at community events as a way to share information and education. So if you have a health fair coming up, Horsham Day, other areas, other programs like that, we're happy to come out and share our resources as well. Advocacy is our second area of support, and we do advocacy at both the federal and state level. We have a number of policy priorities that you can see here around research and access, the underserved, etc. And if you go ahead, our key advocacy effort or success that we have had recently in cooperation with many, many other organizations and individuals is 988. So I have another audience participation question here. If you are aware of 988 and what it's for, and don't worry if you're not, but if you'd raise your hand. Okay, good. That's typically what we get, about half or a little bit more. It is a new number, but it's not a new system. You may have been aware we had a suicide and there was, not we, but there was a suicide and crisis lifeline, but had a long 800, number. Obviously difficult for people to know, especially when they're in a state of crisis. So there's been a lot of work to try to get this, simple 3-digit number, just like 911 that you would call for a physical emergency or crisis or injury. You can call 988 for a mental health crisis or emergency or issue. And I listed a few things on the right-hand side in case you're thinking, well, I'm really worried about this person. I don't know necessarily if they're having suicidal thoughts, but they're definitely having a lot of, struggling. And so you don't have to make that determination, although I will say it is always good to actually ask someone if they're thinking about suicide. There's sometimes false rumors that people think, oh, if I say suicide, they might think about it, and they weren't thinking about it. And research has shown that's really not typically the case. If someone's having suicidal thoughts and you ask them about it, actually there's oftentimes a really big relief, because they think, oh, I'm not crazy, I'm not weird, I can talk about it, it's okay. It's not something that they have intentionally or they obviously want to have. But anyway, you can call 988. You could call 988 with your loved one. Let's say you're concerned about your teenager or your elderly parent. You can call together with them, or they can certainly call themselves. So it's a great opportunity to have a simple number, 988. I have several little reminder cards, magnet stickers, so feel free to take those along. Just even a wallet card to have in your wallet and pocket to remember. Research is our third pillar for AFSP, and we are the largest private funder of suicide prevention research. That's mostly done at our national level rather than, say, in Philadelphia. However, where we do get involved locally is that we find it's very important through our research connection to share research findings with the public. We don't want our research to sit on a shelf or in a academic journal and not really get implemented. So things like I had shared about asking about suicide doesn't necessarily create suicidal thoughts. That comes from research, and we want people to know these things in order to help others. And then finally, our last pillar is support. And I mentioned this earlier, that we have a number of resources for supporting people who've been affected by suicide, whether they've had, a suicide attempt, whether they've been a loss survivor, like, my husband and I. So for loss survivors, we have a couple of programs. Nationally, there's a Survivors of Suicide Loss Day that's been designated by Congress. That's always the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And AFSP, we always have a program for our community in Greater Philadelphia. And actually the last 2 years, last year and coming up this year at Thanksgiving, we're having it right here at Horsham Clinic, who has been kind enough to share their conference room with us. So it's very convenient. If you know of someone who might be struggling or suffering, grieving a loss, that would be a place to refer them. Similarly, for loss survivors, we have a program called Healing Conversations, and this is a peer support call that someone can sign up for. And someone like my husband or myself will call that person. We're not trained counselors, but we're peer survivors, and we can help just by listening, by empathizing, by sharing resources that they might indicate is of interest to them, and just kind of helping them get started on their grief journey, and knowing that they're not alone, and that there are people and resources there to support them. And a final thing that I want to share about support is our Out of the Darkness Walk, which some of you may have heard of. I don't know if anyone's heard of Out of the Darkness Walk. A lot of people know about Out of the Darkness Walk, but they don't know our name, AFSP, and that's okay if you want to go ahead. Our Out of the Darkness Walk is really a beautiful, beautiful event. We have it across the country. There are walks. We have ours for Greater Philadelphia this year. Is going to be at the Mann Center and walking through the Horticultural Center in Fairmont Park. Typically, we have previously been at the Art Museum and walking in that area, so you may be more familiar with that. But this is a new venue for us, and we're very excited about it. So I just want to invite anyone to come walk with us. It's free to sign up if you've been affected by suicide, or even if you just want to show your support for others who have. It's a really beautiful day, and it is a big fundraiser for us, but that's not a requirement of participating. And so finally, I just wanted to wrap up and throw out some ideas I kind of mentioned along the way of how, we can support you or how we can work together to help raise awareness around suicide and suicide prevention. I mentioned our education programs, so if you're aware of an opportunity or an interest, like I said, by the schools or a work group, employers often have these programs as well. Feel free to please connect with me, and I can set that up for you. Again, if there's a health fair, give us a call, and we will be there. If you become aware, as we have seen some of our neighbors who have passed to suicide, and you become aware of a family that needs support in that environment and during that time, again, reach out to us. I mentioned a couple of programs we have. If they're interested, obviously we don't push anything on anyone that might not be interested, or at that time, they may down the road become interested. So I just left my contact information there, as well as our organizations, where you can find a number of links to different mental health resources and organizations if you're interested. I mentioned there's a few things, so feel free, if that's okay with you guys, if people come up and take some information, a magnet, or for your refrigerator, or whatever you find. And reach out to me if there's anything that I can do in the future. And any questions that I can answer, or any ideas that you want to share about moving forward, I'd be welcome to hear that.
Just want to thank you for coming out tonight to speak with us. You'd mentioned schools. Do you already have contact with each with the school district, or would that be helpful to make a connection there?
It would be great to make a connection. We've recently been working with Upper Moreland, and it seems like particularly the middle school is an audience with parents and students that are very interested. At least that's been our experience there, that age population is good. So, I know the principal, but I don't know him, like he wouldn't remember me. Our kids went through school there. So, yeah, I would love that. It's obviously, we do a lot for suicide prevention, but for me personally, I'm really passionate about the youth and reaching our youth. So I would love that. That would be great. Thank you.
Just want to say thanks for coming out. As a veteran, we're very aware of this issue, and it's pretty urgent. So I appreciate you coming out and spreading this word and being there for other people.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry for your loss, both of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't mention all the risk groups, but that is another high-risk group, as you said, with veterans. First responders, yeah. Okay, great.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight and sharing your story, and a great presentation to share the resources and all the things that we can do to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next thing we have tonight is our Horsham Police Department's presentation on their new website through the Crime Watch Network. Chief, do you hear?
Thank you very much. I know we've discussed briefly offline the department's desire and impending implementation of the Crime Watch network and our existence on it. But I wanted to just give you a high-level overview tonight of what the site can do most specifically for the community that will be using it. I liken Crime Watch to a pseudo website, social media platform geared specifically towards law enforcement agencies. The Crime Watch Network allows our citizenry to do a lot of things, make a number of requests, which I'll go into a little bit of detail here in a minute, without actually having to call 911 or our non-emergency number. It's going to really help us with our ability to communicate in real time with those who decide to receive notifications. And I want to be very clear about that up front. This is an opt-in notification system as well. It is not a replacement to reverse 911 where we are able to pinpoint a specific place in the township and send a pre-recorded message to them alerting them of an emergency. This is strictly opt-in. And before I dig deep into the different things that this can do, I want to talk about the notifications. So you can subscribe to the Crime Watch, so you can subscribe to Horsham Township Police Department's Crime Watch page. It doesn't change anything about your access to the information all it does is essentially tailor how often do you want to be bothered, quote unquote, by the system with information. So you can select a weekly update. So once a week, it'll give you sort of what Horsham has posted out this week. You can select a daily update, or you can select to have the information delivered to you the moment we post it. The exception to all that is what the system calls broadcasts. I liken to emergency notifications. So if we have to make an emergency notification for some horrible reason, and I don't even want to jinx ourselves by giving an example, that goes out real time immediately, regardless of your subscription preferences. If you subscribe and only use our website, that's all email notifications, and we all know there's nothing real time about email. If you download the app and allow notifications through the app, you'll get the information real time. So if we're putting out a weather emergency, let's say, it'll come to the users right away. And again, it's opt-in only, so if you don't join up, you're not going to get the information. So that's the disclaimer. So this is our homepage here, and much like you would see on social media, you have a news feed. And now we are technically live, but we have not put a whole lot of information out in regards to this site being existing, because I wanted to walk the council through it first so you get an idea of what this can provide our folks. So this is a basic news feed. We did plug some things in here so that when people land on the page, it doesn't look like we're really all that new here. And this is just, you can select whether you want to see, it defaults to most recent, and as we post things, they arrive here on the news feed. That's what you're going to find when you go to HorshamPolice.org. You'll come right to this page and you'll get your news feed. There's some options here. So about us, there's a little bit of redundancy in the sense that some of the information that's on our web page with Horsham.org, some of this information, as far as, we're proud to be an accredited agency and all that does for us and the community. There's an events calendar that we'll be able to put our community events on here. People will be able to see that. If for some reason someone lands on this page but would prefer, or we're looking for the township's webpage, this will open up the township's webpage so they don't get too far into the weeds here. A little bit about our department, our divisions, and then we spotlight certain things based upon time of the year. Right now, our Citizens Police Academy is being held weekly, and of course, how could you not spotlight Detective K9 Mack? We're very proud of being one of the few departments in the region that has a dog like him. So again, it's a basic about us. It doesn't go too far into the weeds as far as maybe where our web page does, but it's not designed to do that. The next tab here is where you can see all that we're posting in regards to crime or police activity. So they're broken down into a number of different selections here. An incident blotter, which I'll actually go to because we have this vandalism at our Penn Mutual building. Somebody can see here, okay, they can click on, get an idea, hey, do I know this person? They can look at the photo. But this is where we'll typically put up, hey, some information that we need in regard to trying to identify doers or suspects, etc. Any cases of import or notoriety will be put here. Right now we don't have anything in there, again, because we don't want to build this out too much until we knew that you folks were able to see what it does. Most wanted persons, again, we have a number of people who should have been arrested but have warrants out for their arrest. The most notorious of those will be here in the most wanted section, and then the rest will be in the warrants section. Again, we don't have anything in there now, but the plan is to put all of our active arrest warrants in there. Any and all significant arrests will go in here. One of the things we don't want to do, just like it with any social media platform, is to clog up the news feed with, someone was cited because, for disorderly conduct. Some of what is routine for us, we probably won't find its way in here just because too much information sometimes drowns out the important information. And speaking of important information, there's a spot specifically for missing persons. That tends to go in ebbs and flows. right now, thankfully, we're not dealing with, an abundance of missing persons like maybe at the same time last year, but that's where everything will be in here so that people can, get an idea of who they're on the lookout for. As far as resources, again, we can build this out with a lot more information. I'll tell you, one of the things that I get the most phone calls when I'm not at work from people I know or people in the community is Megan's Law, surprisingly. I'll have someone say, hey, listen, I live on such and such a street, and I know that there's a person who's on Megan's Law's list. They live 4 doors down. They're a tier 2 offender. What does that mean? Are they allowed to come to the playground at the end of the street? And many times the answer to those questions is, well, it depends. Megan's Law's website here goes into depth about being able to figure out what some of that stuff means if you want to search. Sometimes, living in blissful ignorance is a little more comfortable, but you can definitely go through here and see who is registered in your area. The police reports and soliciting permits tabs, they just give basic information on if you need a police report for some sort of criminal activity or something you were involved in, how to go about doing it. And one of the things that keeps me busy the most is with issuing soliciting permits. This gives some guidance on how to obtain a permit. So that's all very good stuff, but what excites me the most about this site, and it's all under this forms tab, is ways in which the public can reach out to us for non-emergency matters and either obtain services that we've always provided but typically required you to call in for, but it also allows us to provide some services that otherwise in the past we didn't provide for because it just wasn't easy to do, and this site makes it easy to do. So I'm going to go over just a few of them here. You probably heard me, or some of you at council have heard me talk from the moment I took over as chief about the camera registry. So essentially what this is residents and businesses alike can register with our database any and all surveillance video or cameras that they have on their property if they want to. Having a registry of cameras in the township will be a huge benefit to our investigators when, for instance, we're investigating a vandalism at a vacant building in town. We can, through geolocation, figure out, okay, who around there has Ring cameras or other surveillance cameras, and be able to maybe get some more identification on someone we're looking at. It is obviously completely voluntary, but it would be incredibly helpful for our people and a time saver, because what we typically do is canvass door to door asking, do you have a Ring cam? And so many people have this technology now. So real simple, you can go in there, it's just a form you fill out, and you can register your cameras with us. If, fortunately, we get far more compliments than complaints about our officers, you can do that right here. Sometimes, somebody encounters our officers on a call of some sort, and they're very happy with the service they got. But by the time they get home and get on with their busy daily lives, what was important to them to sort of give us kudos sort of falls by the wayside, and that's just natural. Here's an area where somebody can do it with very little effort. The do not solicit list. So this is a list that people can opt into, essentially, that will prevent solicitors from soliciting at your property. So the way this will work is I issue all soliciting permits to those who are seeking them. When they get a permit, they will get the most up-to-date list of people who would kindly prefer that you not knock on their door. What we're still working out with the do not solicit list, other communities do the same thing. When you join the list, you'll probably get via email a placard that you can print and post on your window if you want to. It's been widely used in Warminster Township, Bucks County, which then alerts, the solicitor has a list of places they're supposed to leave alone, but then the sign is sort of like a belt and suspenders approach. So that's what we're looking at implementing there. So hopefully, if people just do not want to be bothered, this is a way to sort of enforce that and bolster that a little bit. Fortunately, we don't get many complaints against officers, but this is an opportunity for people to file a complaint. And just out of complete transparency, if someone goes on here to file a complaint against an officer, there's a very basic information that they put in there. And then what I'll do, or my deputy chief of police will do, is then reach out to the complainant, and we have certain other processes within the department that will need them to fill out some further information. But it gets the ball rolling, it gets it started, it gives somebody who maybe has no idea how to complain against the police. It's a good start. Fingerprinting, that's a service that we offer to citizens and those who work in town. This is an opportunity where someone can go in there and schedule their fingerprinting appointment rather than calling in and speaking to our clerk. The Handle with Care registry, this goes hand in hand with our Blue Envelope program, but it's expanded much more than that. So the Handle with Care registry is essentially if you want to put on our radar anybody who has special needs. Maybe you have an elderly parent who lives in town and wants to live alone, is insistent that they live alone, but you want to let us know that they live there alone, and maybe they have a lockbox on their property or on their door. That information you put in here so that rather than kicking a door down, we'll have that information at our disposal. So pretty much anything that you think you need to bring to our attention in regard to our residents can be done with the Handle with Care registry. Pet registry, if you subscribe to the Chat's Facebook page, you know that one of the things we deal most with is lost pets. You can preemptively register your pet with us so that when and if we find them, we have a little bit more to go on other than just putting a post out and hoping someone recognizes the photo. The request for extra police patrol is, so if there's a perceived issue with what they believe is criminal activity, you can report traffic issues here, but we have our own spot for that. But if you want to say, hey, listen, you have an issue at some particular location in town, you can submit that information. You can submit it anonymously, or you can identify yourself. It's up to you. We'll take the information either way. The submit an online report feature. One thing we're not going to do is police work by internet here, but if there's something you need to report, this is a place to get started. We prefer that someone click on this and give us the information and we follow up with you, rather than them just not report a crime or an incident that they may think is so minor at all. So you can put your information in here. When you submit an online report, within 24 hours, you'll have an officer from our department reaching out to you to complete that report and get all the information that we need. Submit a tip is very similar to the request for extra police patrols, but as you might imagine, it's a place where you can tattletale on whatever you think is going on and bring it to our attention and remain anonymous. The traffic complaint, same thing. You maybe live at an intersection where you perceive there's a traffic issue. People aren't stopping for stop signs. Whatever you can imagine, you could do it there. The vacation home check is a service that we have been providing for the 24 years that I've worked here, and even before then. Unfortunately, many people don't know that we do it. In the past, you'd have to call in and ask for your place to be checked. And what we do is our officers routinely check your property while you're away on vacation. This is a much easier way for people to make that request. I do want to just point out a couple things to preemptively assuage any concerns. So our submit online report, when you click on this, the first thing it's going to do is say, hey, is this an emergency or an in-progress event? If it is, it's going to be very clear. Hey, listen, I need you to dial 911. If not, then it'll let you continue on. So there are some safeguards built in, because you'd be surprised how many reported concerns, which is a technology up until now that we've used, people would put things in there that they really should have called 911 about. And there's a very little or a reduced amount of things that we can do for you if we're 24 to 48 hours away from whatever had happened. So that is built in here too. There's there's a contact us, right? This is again, it's going to say, is this an emergency? It's a blanket, if it doesn't fit into one of these areas or people just jump right to the contact us, it comes to us. In case if you're wondering, the vast majority of these forms, when they're filled out, come directly to the chief of police and the deputy chief of police. So there's a few that do not. The do not solicit goes to our clerk who handles the preparation of solicitation permits. But the vast majority of this stuff, for lack of a better term, comes right to our desk so that nothing gets lost. And then we delegate it as we see fit to individual people if we don't handle it ourselves. So we talked about these different crime categories, right? So the more we put in here, the more it allows our citizenry to actually map crime in town. So the vast majority, I looked at this earlier, I've been looking at this for a while. The only thing you'll find in Horsham Township right now is these arrests. And one of the issues why they show up, even though they're not Horsham Township's arrest, is they're indicated that someone was arrested on Easton Road in Willow Grove. Well, the Willow Grove Naval Air Station still has a Willow Grove post office zip code, so there's a few things that populate here. But we'll pick on all the other towns around us for a minute. And the only thing we have right now is our vandalism. But you can see all the different things that are going on. So, for example, in Warrington here, you can drill down and sort of, go by wherever you live and see what's happening. These, are arrests that have either occurred at that location, or sometimes it's people that reside there that have active warrants for their arrest. But if you're into this sort of data thing, you can really get an idea of what's going on in the town, in your neighborhood, in the region. Many of the departments around us are already members of Crime Watch. Crime Watch is not new; it is new to Horsham Township. And just like anything else, the more agencies you have partaking, the more information you get. And as I'm looking at this, again, here's a real obvious submitted tip. The only other thing I'll show you, which I think will be helpful 5 years from now when this thing is full of different posts. Say, for instance, you saw somewhere on our posting that we were hiring a crossing guard, but you can't find it to save your life. You could just search, and you can find all of our posts involving the word crossing. So that will be helpful as our identity here goes on a little longer. I think I touched on probably more than a high-level idea of what this site does, but I'm very much excited to sort of take the cover off this thing and unleash it to the citizenry because of so much that it does and how it'll allow us, in maybe not so much a personal way, but to be able to connect with our residents. So I will leave this up here as a shameless plug. You can scan the QR code if you want to follow us. But does anyone have any questions in regard to the platform or what it can do?
You said you're technically live. At what point do you think that it will be populated to the point where it's, I don't want to say useful because it probably already is, but you know what I'm asking.
Right, that's a good question. So sadly, it's a double-edged sword. There's two things that drive traffic to your Crime Watch portal. One is unfortunately a significant event. For example, Hatboro most recently had a fatal vehicle accident on County Line Road. Their followership increased by like 400 followers because of that. Sadly, it took a tragedy like that for people, they see other people sharing the information. What we'd like to do, rather than have those tragic events, is getting this information out to as many places as we can. So one of the things that we're going to do is go to our local businesses. And I don't mean, a pharmaceutical company on Ridgeview Drive. I mean, the bread and bagel house or the dry cleaner says, hey, would you mind if we posted this up in your, somewhere on your board or whatever they have available? We're trying to work on getting contact information for our homeowners associations in town. I meet with the HOA for Regency at Waterside for a different matter next week, and that's one of the things. Hey, can you put this out to your folks? Because we really need to drive traffic, and the only way we drive traffic is either we get in front of them by showing them this information, or they find it elsewhere. And again, when they find it elsewhere, it's usually not for good reasons. So, but to answer your question, how, before this becomes useful, it really depends on how quickly we can get this information out there to where it can be useful to a broad audience, right? It's useful to every person who signs up, and we do have a number of followers already, but like I said, they're sort of stumbling upon us. That's how they're finding us now. After tonight, we're going to put a press release out to the news agencies. They love to follow this stuff, but all our social media partners that try to really get this information out there. So I got to think within the next, our contract's from July to July. So by the end of this first contract of July of next year, I'm hoping to have several hundred followers, and we're really going to leverage the popularity of our chats Facebook page to drive some traffic to this.
So you're planning on a rollout on your social media or the chat social media as well? Is that what?
Yeah. So the plan, and we're going to get working on this tomorrow. Now that you guys have sort of seen a look under the hood, we'll put a press release out to all the local news agencies. That doesn't get us a lot of followers, right? It just gets people watching. It's going to go out on our social media at the township, the police department's social media pages, chats, and that's where we're going to start. I mean, hopefully with that reach, we can get some momentum building. Our Facebook page is not that old. It's maybe a few months old. In fact, it was something that we had to build in concert with this. And using those outreach platforms, just the township and chats, and I think we get up to like 1,000 followers. So it happens relatively quickly. And then the other plan is, right, so no one likes getting those drip campaign marketing emails, right, from the same company trying to sell you the same thing over and over. What we're going to do on a routine basis is highlight one of the individual features of the site. So like the Handle with Care registry or the pet registry. So if we spotlight one of those things maybe over the course of 12 weeks, while they're seeing something different, it really all leads back to the same thing, and maybe one of those features is going to spark someone to follow. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. I was asking because I don't want to spoil your thunder, right? So I'll wait until your posts go out, and then we can share.
I appreciate that. Yeah, but I mean, this is.
Right?
I mean, my staff will tell you I'm impatient when it comes to this stuff, and I'm so excited that we finally were able to do this. That I want to get it out there and really and get it moving.
What about any demo, I guess, for the larger crowd once it does get, like, this was fantastic doing this overview. Do you plan to record and post that anywhere, or like do some sort of event where you can highlight the features to a broader crowd?
I think the video, I hadn't given that any thought. That's not a terrible idea, other than I don't know if somebody wants to see me speak on video in perpetuity. But I do like the idea of like the Rotary Club's going to get a real brief, presentation on this. I like the idea of the in-person things. We also have our Citizens Police Academy, so I'm going to interrupt their fun to give them the pitch too. But that's something I have to look a little further into, because that's not a terrible idea. Actually, you could reach more people much more efficiently that way, for sure.
Piggybacking on that, the Horsham Library having an event there, the high school, do they have a criminal justice class at the high school?
I don't know if they have a criminal justice
Gotta
specific
make
class.
one.
I'm a little gun shy with the library because the Meet the Chief event garnered 0 visitors. But maybe
Piggyback on one of their
Give them
high
food
Right.
while
Yeah.
you're there.
well, yeah, right. We'll bake it into something that's far more
Literally
appealing.
bake it, yes.
But seriously though, I mean, if that's something that people would be interested in attending, I would be more than happy to
Well,
go on
and
the circuit, so to
I
speak.
think you went through almost every form, but I don't think you touched on vacation home check, which I would like the crowd at home to know about.
Yeah,
You did.
I'll do it again.
No, you had mentioned before that existed previously.
Yeah,
and that's
so
something
we
that
had
I
it,
did
but
not know.
the people, a lot of folks didn't know. In fact, we had gotten inquiries as other agencies like Montgomery Township and those around us have shared sort of their stuff on Crime Watch. We actually had someone reach out to us and say, are you ever going to allow vacation home checks? Say Montgomery Township's doing it. And the answer is, well, we do, but it's not as easy as it is there. We fixed that with this platform.
Oh, go ahead.
We've always have, and we actually put out on our social media in the summertime about the vacation checks. I don't think many people catch it, but and our officers, they just don't drive by. They actually get out of the car and they walk around your house and they look out back, and so there's more. I think a lot of people's perception is, oh, they just drive by and look. Oh, their house is there. It's okay. But they actually get out.
We want to make sure your ring cam catches us at every door and every,
Way to make someone the talk of the neighborhood. We're like, did you see the police were scoping out their place?
And as far as an idea for the library, I think there's certain populations that are going to have an easier time signing up for this and navigating, whereas it might be a good senior course to have knowledge of, and especially the handle with care area, all of those things that there might be. More of a helping them through the website and signing up themselves as well.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you done?
I think so.
Is there anything that we need to be, like a collective, we need to be concerned about with having a lot of this information in a broader population's hands with relative ease, such as like looking at outstanding warrants or, what's going, I guess, on the flip side of this, is there anything to be concerned about, or how do we potentially mitigate, someone going too far?
That is a good question in the sense that, so the only information that's going to find its way on this web page for, on our site is that which we are legally allowed to share, right? So this basically takes the place of the old incident plotter that some agencies used to, Monday morning would come and you'd see a list of all the arrests from the weekend prior, airing out pretty much everyone's dirty laundry in a sense for those who have been arrested. This is now a digital version of that, but again, we don't want to clog it up with what is seemingly, at least to us, routine or of no specific import. If where you're getting at is now someone sees there's a warrant for Joe Smith, and I know Joe Smith and that lives next door now, what we expect people to do is just submit a tip, let us know, and let us handle it. So I want to make sure I understand your question as far as what the public will do with the information, or what sort of liability the township brings upon itself by having this information out there.
More the public.
Yeah, the public will know more than they know now about these things that maybe they never even paid attention to.
Yeah.
I think it's no surprise to anyone sitting up here on the dais that people want information. They want it immediately, and they're not even so concerned of whether it's good information or not. They just want information. This is our way to, as best we can, keep up with and, dare I say, get ahead of misinformation. And in my 3 years as chief, I've seen a number of incidents that, because people talk absent any real facts, they just sort of make up their own reality with what's going on. So we have to be careful. The information is going to be out there, and it's going to be way more. They're going to be oblivious to the fact that their neighbor has a DUI warrant for their arrest. But it's going to help us hopefully reduce that, right? To be able to locate these folks and have them have their day in court. So I can only tell you that other agencies that have been on Crime Watch platform for several years, it is not, to the best of my knowledge, something that anybody's really combating. You're always going to have that rogue citizen who feels like they have to be way more involved than they should be, but that's no different. We've dealt with that for years, and we know how to deal with that. I hope that adequately answered your question.
On the flip side of that, has there been any note from other townships or municipalities that use Crime Watch any reduction in crime? Because these are all things that are technically public information and used to be in the newspaper. Because that's not how people are accessing information typically, this is another format.
Right.
But it's kind of, to Ms. Slaff's point, bringing that to the forefront again, is that a deterrent for some people?
I don't
knowing
know,
that it-
I don't really have any statistics on it at all, but I have to believe that it may not, I can't speak to whether it deters crime, but it has to increase the clearance rate of arrests and incidents when you're basically putting out there, hey, these are all the people that have warrants. Somebody, if your neighbor has a warrant for the arrest, there's somebody on that street who's not happy with that neighbor, right? And maybe they'll submit a tip to us. So I can't give any hard data as far as whether it deters crime or increases clearance rates. But to your point, it's just a much more far-reaching crime blotter, like you said, it used to be in the newspaper on Monday morning, right?
Right. And I think last one, you said that the Facebook page was kind of created concurrently with this and it was tied together. Is there anything where it posts automatically, that you post to the site and it posts automatically to Facebook? Or
Yes,
is it still
so-
a two-step? Okay.
So we decide what goes to Facebook. So, and I want to be clear that this site is not designed to, nor will it serve as just a list of arrestees, warrants. The good stuff's going to be on here too. It's a great place to showcase what we're doing for the community, what the community's done for us. So I want to be clear that while it's Crime Watch and there's all these different crime mapping features, it's not just going to be a list of all the things that have gone less than perfectly in town. You're going to see the other stuff, but we can select what goes to Facebook and what doesn't. So every post that goes onto Crime Watch doesn't necessarily go to Facebook unless you want it to. It's essentially a checkbox that every post you do, you either select it to go there or not. And it is important to note that if there's a question of who creates this content, right? It's everybody in the department has the ability to author the content. No one can post the content for public consumption unless it's approved by either I or the deputy chief of police. But we've had, and I can tell you the stuff that's in there, I didn't create one of those things in there. It's our own people who, hey, this is a great idea, chief. What do you think? Hey, put something together. Let me look at it. And that's what we want to be able to do. It gives them the opportunity to sort of memorialize in real time some things that happen out there that otherwise they don't have access to our Facebook page, so they can't post it. So this is going to be helpful in that respect too.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Next item is approval of list of checks. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $389,340.20, and further move to authorize payment of same.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item tonight would be to consider the following subdivision. Mary Boyle Weber, 1051 and 1053 West County Line Road, lot line change. Mr. Walker?
This is a lot line subdivision change. It has been approved, recommended approval from the Planning Commission. You have reviewed it, and the resolution is in front of you this evening for your consideration.
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, granting preliminary final approval to Mary Boyle Weber, 1051 and 1053 West County Line Road, subdivision plan 24-03-S.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is roll call vote.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Aye.
how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, our next item is to render a decision on the Payone Brothers Horsham LLC, 726 Norristown Road, conditional use application.
At the last meeting, you held a hearing on a conditional use application of Payone to be able to extend the water line into the riparian corridor. They made this request at the urging of the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority because the sewer authority wants the system looped. I prepared an adjudication granting the application. It was in your packets for review. Basically, it grants the requested application to allow the water line in the riparian quarter, subject to the conditions that they comply with, the township engineer review letter, and the water and sewer authority review letter, and then just, the normal, if they need a water and sewer service, they have to, agreement, they have to get one. If they need, if they must comply with all other codes and ordinances of the township. So if that is to your liking, you can make a motion simply to adopt it. That's all you need to do.
Just to be clear, this application doesn't change anything that was happening before. They're just adding a water and sewer line to it.
Correct. It doesn't affect the actual development at all. It's just is trying to accommodate a request of the Water and Sewer Authority to be able to loop the system for better service for people in the area.
Do we have a motion?
I just had one more question. I see your adjudication in our documents. You mentioned the engineer letter. Was that from last month? That they had to comply with? Mary, Ms. Everly, sorry.
It's, I'm Mary. It's the August 22nd letter of Gilmore Associates. It was labeled T9 at the hearing, and last month is the date of the letter. I think somebody made a motion, right?
Not yet.
I think we're waiting for. Sign said letter.
Sorry, to sum up, what are they complying with from the engineer's letter?
There is very few comments in the engineer's letter. I don't have it with me. It was part of the packet of the exhibits at the hearing. I can go on my VPN and look, but it'll take me about 5 or 10 minutes.
You can speak, sorry, Mr. Angenozio.
Know how much you wanted to get involved with it. No, there were no issues. This was obviously they already went through the process for the sewer line and for the trail. So this was just adding another utility in the same exact area, but it was a requirement to be done. So that's why they came in for a second conditional use. So based off the first one, there's really nothing else to add with this one.
Thank you, I'm ready.
I move to approve the conditional use application for the Pinyon Brothers Horsham LLC, 726 Norristown Road, 24-10-CU.
Second?
Moved in second. This is a roll call vote.
Ms. Slaff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next item is zoning hearing board applications. Gwen Donan, 1317 Bywood Road. Mr. Walker.
This is a residential one in our R2 zoning district. They would like to construct a detached garage, and in order to do so, they need two variances. One's for height, where our zoning allows 14 feet. They would like a height of 20 feet. And the second is a side yard setback, where we require 7 feet, they would like 3 feet. The staff recommendation for, we have no issue with the height. The side yard, the staff recommendation would be to stay at 7 feet. They have the space.
I was going to ask, how big is the property?
It's a pretty large property. Let me see if I throw a photo up here quickly. So this is the property here. It goes back. This is the house, the pool. What they have now is a shed, and they want to put the detached garage back here. So they're actually just for storage. They're not continuing their driveway to the garage. So they're actually putting the husband's collector car in there, which he likes just to tinker with and work on. The staff recommendation is neutral to the height, but opposed by letter to the zoning hearing board for the side yard.
So there's nothing prohibitive on the property that says they really have to only be 3 feet instead of 7 feet.
No, they can be 7 feet.
Well, is there any reason why we shouldn't be, that's an important issue, and there's places where we should waive that and places where we shouldn't. Is a letter sufficient, or do we need to send a solicitor?
That's really a council decision.
We're going,
COUNCL or COUNSEL? My recommendation, my recommendation would be on something as, like a setback. You don't need to send the solicitor in those cases. It's not a use variance or something that you're fighting against the use of the property. It's easy enough to convey your feelings about a setback variance through a letter.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes, I'm aligned.
Yes.
All right, then, do you have the
Information
information?
you need, Mary?
I do.
All right, then, okay to move on to the next one, Bill?
The next one is also residential in our R3 zoning district on Hollowell Avenue. Let me get my paperwork here. So this is Hollowell Avenue here. My pointer, see if it works. So this is Hollowell Avenue here. Horsham Road is out here by a couple lots. And currently, what they would like to do is, it's used as sort of like an industrial lot right now. They like to join the two lots, merge the two lots together, build a single-family home after merging the two separate lots into one, build the single-family home. In order to do that, they need 4 variances, and most of them are because of the undersized lot that it'll become. But what we'll be doing is changing a lot that does not meet our by right use into a by right use. This is a residential neighborhood. Let me show you another. So this is hard to tell by this. This is a satellite photo we grabbed from a few years ago. So these are the 2 lots right here that you're looking at. These are the 2 lots right here. This is the industrial use. So it's a yard. There's piles of stuff. There's equipment. There's containers. It's nice and buffered from the street. There's a hedgerow here and also a fence towards here. But this use is not a permitted use in this zoning district or this neighborhood. As you can see, once you get off Horsham Road past this property, it's all residential through Hollowell Avenue and all the way out to Norristown Road. So it's being turned back to what its original by right use is. Let me see if I can also pull it up here. Come on. No. So this is the property here that we're talking about. This is Horsham Road up here, Hollowell. So this is the property that we're talking about here. And again, they need 4 variances to make it a by right use again. The staff is supportive, not supportive, but recommends neutral to the application for its 4 variances that they need. And do what did I get? They need the variances because it's an undersized lot. But again, what they're trying to do is put these 2 lots back to a by right use in R3 zoning in a neighborhood of other homes and families. And they also need the rear yard setback relief is one of the variances because they set the house, I'm done fooling with my computer. They set the house back further, so they either would need a rear yard setback or a front yard setback. So instead of pushing the house further up towards Hollowell and asking for a front yard setback, they push the house towards the rear, and you can see it starting to line up with that other dark square up top with the other house, residential house next to it. So it lines up with the other homes on Hollowell Avenue. They're designing the house back, and they're asking for a rear yard setback. So, in short, they need 4 variances, and the staff's recommendation is neutral.
Are the other 3 variances setback related?
No,
Lot
Minimum
coverage.
lots, so-
it's the undersized lot issues.
Can you pull up the aerial view again? Is there a house or anything behind them? I couldn't.
No, that's
I don't-
Precision Drive.
Okay.
That's Precision Drive back here. So that's all industrial back there, and
Okay.
that's industrial zoning back there.
Everybody okay with that?
Okay.
All right.
Then I guess the next item would be to make some announcements. Horsham Township E-Covenant Sunday is October the 3rd, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Township Municipal Complex. There'll be a tree giveaway, e-waste, recycling, and shredding event. The Horsham Township Library's 20th anniversary celebration is November the 9th at the library at 2 p.m. Family celebration feat open to children and families at 6:30 p.m. Library anniversary reception is open to the community. With that, our next township meeting will be Wednesday, October the 9th in this auditorium at 8 p.m. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.